Okay, so I was just thinking, I'm uploading a video to YouTube for video commentary. I was also thinking about not only calling this video commentary, but like making a note, space fiction. And then also create categories or stipulations, I guess, for space fiction. I don't know if space fiction exists and what their idea of space fiction is. I know they have sci fi. Space fiction. Space fiction. So it does exist. Popular space fiction books. Okay. So this is Ender's Game. No, that's not space fiction. That's sci-fi, right? Okay, so yeah, I don't think it. Space science fiction. No, it's not just space fiction. It's like actual space fiction, right? So you go popular space fiction titles. I don't know. It's differing from what my idea of it is. You know, Leviathan Wakes. It's like Martians and broken stars, like alien stuff, and just space thought in general, I guess. Space Odyssey. That's kind of Speakers for the Dead. I don't know. Like sci-fi should be in a different category, where it's mostly theory. So I was thinking about it. I think I wrote something about this on Facebook, and I like the piece that I wrote, like stipulations on what space fiction is, what space fiction is not. Let's see if I can remember it. And that was maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I'm like, gosh, it's been so long. Some personal stuff in here, but anyway, I'm just gonna sort of try to find it. Space fiction, so I can understand it. Oh yeah, visual representation. I'm like, yes, yeah. Let me see if I can find it. Singledom. Thought that was funny too. Anyway, further into my mind. Okay, so that was a question. Here we go. So I was trying to make the best of it, like on a night that was like really annoying. It was writing jot space fiction, and then I was like, space fiction should be differentiated from sci-fi. Space fiction must meet a few criteria, right? And I was like, it has to, because if we cannot differentiate the two, we cannot separate the sort of meaning and understand it more fully. Which is, space fiction must not include theory, current like theory, anything in sort of idea right now about like what space is, without proper scientific documentation. Meaning, you can't like fictionalize, an actual space occurrence in space fiction, whereas you can fictionalize it in sci-fi. So you go, space fiction must not include any idea of pre-70s alien theory. So you know, life on other planets and that evading Earth, basically. Invading Earth, I mean. As space fiction must include realistic representations of current space science. So, it has to be somewhat rooted in realism. Like any sort of understanding. But also have like fictional stories, meaning nothing mentioned that, is yet reality. Kind of that it has to be based on science. If you're going to play with it, it has to be sort of, kind of connected to something that you've learned and that you can further. So that if you are wrong, you can say, hey, this was wrong. Kind of like being realistic so that others don't lose sight of realism either. So there's may have future settings. I can't get the descriptions right sometimes because I don't have an extensive enough or extensive enough imagery. Anyway, so it takes some time. Gotta kind of learn it to know it. Story ideas are based on relationships, not just people, but physical. Meaning that, Earth orbits the sun. That's a sort of relationship. It's basically gravitation, right? Which is gravity. And I was also thinking of titling this story Gravitation as opposed to Jot. Like, it has to have a title sometime. And I like the idea of gravitation. Being kind of immersed in that idea, I guess. Gravitation, but in a relationship sense. It kind of makes sense that, two people, Astrophil and Celine, They're kind of drawn to the same sort of career, and they have a lot in common, so on and so forth. So gravitation, I like the idea of gravitation as a title, but anyway, space fiction too, and that it doesn't include any of that. And it's kind of more realistic. You learn with it. Okay, so it's not just people relationship, but physical relationships. There are relationships everywhere, and that's basically not controlled. It's more like a relationship exists, a cause and effect type thing. You know, that there's a sun, there's this or that, and this is how they interact, kind of thing. As opposed to, this is how I want it to interact, as in theory. So it has to be realized, meaning that there are facts for all of that. Okay, so they're still studying too, so there's always new information throughout years. And it's a fun exploration. Like physics, realism, but also have fiction. So which would be the people relationships? These are characters, this is a plot, and this is, what you kind of want to explore, as in like a cause and effect type thing. Anyway, I found also that, the best suited names for these two characters were Greek. There's Selene, which is light, and then, there is light. Like there's sun, there's light, so on and so forth. There's color, etc. And there's Astrophel. It's Greek for star lover, or lover and friend, which, kind of brings the story together, which is a relationship between Astrophel and Selene, sort of space fiction. So yeah, this future, I'm like, whatever. So yeah, I was also exploring the idea, like last person alive. Would they even have the ability to, I don't know, just make life again? There's one person alive, and, there's, I don't know, a store of, sperm and ovum. How do you do that? And do you test it? No, it's already tested and proven. So you go, it's possible. You better know the process, darn it, and get out of your own head, because this is important, kind of thing. That would be kind of interesting. So anyway, that's more chaotic. I thought, the entire, human existence is coming to an end. What do you do? Like, crap. I don't want to think about it. But at the same time, it's easy to think about because we have real facts, which is like, okay, what can we do within our lifetime to sort of add any type of benefit toward that? And I'm like, it's not really useful for me. I can study it, but you never know. There's amateurs here and there and so on and so forth, and I don't know how far I want to go into that. It's fun though, looking at stars is. Reading information about what's surrounding us, when we're kind of on this planet. Knowing what's surrounding us and doing what we like. Anyway, yeah, actually, ribs and a workout. Anyway, so that was a piece right there. Those are some of the criteria, right? Which is okay, space fiction cannot include theory. Space fiction cannot include any idea of pre-70s alien theory. No aliens in space fiction. Unless you're talking about organisms on other planets. It comes to a point where you don't, idealize a lot of things that aren't real. Meaning, our current knowledge only goes to, travel to the moon. Beyond that is, we can't really do it until Mars is discovered. And you have an entire other idea, an entire, series of thoughts that can happen within that sort of scenario. There's one, space station, a lot of satellites, a lot of research and stuff like that, and you have, many different possibilities within that, and facts that people have already written on. So, biology, or, I don't know, biographical representations of that. I'm well, you have to go to Wiki. So I'm there's all kinds of biographical representations of that in time and stuff like that, information. But that's more for realism, and that's more for writing facts that are going to be used by people like me. So this is fiction. Biographical representation, isn't really as useful. Unless you're hey, you need to bring someone up to speed, which is this is what I'm talking about. You say, hey, I found the answers here, and these are the people that actually wrote on it. I like that idea. Exploring it. Leave me alone. So yeah. No sci-fi in space fiction. That's more action, space action. To me, it's space action movies. It's freaking catastrophe in space, or this spaceship is like this, and it has gravity on it, even though we haven't experienced that yet, or they haven't experienced that yet. No, it's theory. It's that a machine of some sort can exist that is with this function and so on and so forth. It's space vehicle creation, I guess. Anyway, that's mostly in fiction, and it's a visual as of now. Going into any further understanding of that is just understanding the mechanics that we know. And that's not in spacecraft, but like just basic components, I guess, of machinery already known. So yeah, that's sci-fi as well, but at the same time you can't go beyond that sort of understanding. It's impossible at the moment, no offense, even though imagination is fun. So, space science. Like atriums, we know those exist. They can exist, for plant growth. Sort of, how do I say that? Exaggerate? Exaggerate, I guess. Which in the previous video, the one I'm uploading to YouTube now, actually, describes a sort of relation of plants. They're on a planet that, has been orbiting the sun in rotation for many, 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 many years, and they have a sort of a plant life growth that is consistent with that which has already happened for many, many, many years. So plants, yeah, their roots take form and try to reach toward the center of Earth. Along the way, I think it's water. I don't know though. I could be wrong. That's just an idea, right? I haven't really searched that information as far as botany and stuff like that. I got into it a little bit, but not completely. And besides, I have different ideas, I guess, on what I've learned thus far about Earth anyway. So I think, the roots are trying to reach toward the core of Earth, warmth, I guess, maybe, and find water along the way. That's their sort of nutrition. And then there is, the leaves. And what are the leaves for? And it's kind of like our skin. Stimulation, I think, mostly. Wind and stuff like that. Anyway, we eat it. Like we eat it, and it freaking helps us live. Everything must, consume something else. And I think organisms, like I was saying, that entire idea of Earth, there used to be a large icy planet. Many, 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 many years ago. Sort of several things happened, and now we're here. So yeah, little tiny organisms that somehow live in water probably started reproducing with organisms that ate some other type of element. So you go, like they lived on this or that, or themselves, for that matter, and sort of began evolving based on that type of thing. So yeah, I think organisms have always been a part of the universe. But they were discovered, kind of thing. Anything before that is theory because we don't have understanding of it. Anyway, that's awesome thought, which is plants. Okay, physics, motion, movement, explanation for anything seen, anything known, etc. It's a system. So that others can understand the same thoughts had. Like whatever. That really started with earthquakes in California. I always thought it was like rocks mashing against each other. And then realizing it wasn't a crunch, it was a rumble. And I go, it's a rumble before an earthquake. It's an explosion beneath the surface. More slow though, because it's kind of dense in there. Kind of like a TNT beneath water. It's like anyway, it cracks me up. Kind of like lava flow. Anyway, So yeah. And then I was also looking at the patterns of ridges along the continents around the area, what they call the Ring of Fire, where volcanoes are actually found. Or mostly found, I should say. There's like ridges like mush, like, like clay. But then you get to California and you're like, where the heck is the ridge? The West Coast, I should say. So I was like, yeah, there's no ridge. So, a volcano, like if there's earthquakes all along the western coast, it's essentially like, I guess, pushing magma toward like volcanoes, which then, have reactions, which are like, hey, I don't like this. And I think there's elements near volcanoes that explode too. When magma touches that, it's like, I don't want out. Like I think she learned all that. Astrofall. She learned all that and she was like, I want off. I didn't want to be here. Anyway, huge supervolcanic activity. After that is fairly calm. And disaster. Anyway, it grows back. We know that. And supervolcanic activity that kills everyone? I don't know. That's like the entire crust touching the mantle, and there's already the idea that happens is like a gradual heating toward the center. It's hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter the more or closer it gets. Like it's kinda not known, but it's theorized. We know that magma exists. Or not magma, we know that lava exists. Beyond that, like what the heck? I just found 2 little freaking skin ridges on my arm. Oh, it's like moles. I'm like, great. It's freaking fantastic. Anyway, so that idea, I found that in Google Earth. I was like, what the hell is this? Ring of Fire. Only volcanoes existed. And then before that, it was even weird. I didn't know I was on a planet. Come to think of that. Yeah, pretty scary place, right? Okay, so I think that's all I have for now. Pretty much notes, for future realizations, writing criteria for space fiction as opposed to sci-fi. So yeah, you want aliens, go to sci-fi. Space fiction is all about realism in space with characters fictionalized based on, real human characteristics. But anyway, I will talk more later.